Nearly 1 billion people go hungry in the world today, says the Food and Agriculture Organization of the United Nations. That means 1 out of 6 persons suffers from chronic hunger. That means every 6 seconds, a child dies of hunger. The world population has grown to 7 billion, and even though global food production has grown with it, thanks to improved agricultural production technologies, says FAO, but the number of undernourished people has grown rather than diminished due to new challenges such as climate change, recent food price hikes, and the global economic downturn. Tackling this issue head-on, FAO and the Special Unit for South-South Cooperation, a division of the United Nations Development Program, held a week-long Global South-South Development Expo designed to showcase and foster new initiatives and build inclusive partnerships for South-South cooperation, including triangular and public-private partnerships, in order to combat food insecurity in the Global South.
The world community has been able to reduce considerably the overall figures, but there is still much to be done now and in the years to come.
Food security is more than just a food crisis. It is human tragedy and humanity's failure. But the burden and the cost of food insecurity are being borne most heavily by the poorest of the poor, especially women and children.
The 4th annual event kicked off its first day with a high-level opening ceremony, bringing in a host of dignitaries and experts on South-South cooperation, food and agriculture, and development, including Nasser Abdulaziz Al Nasser, the president of the UN General Assembly's 66th session, UN Ambassador of Kenya, Makuraya Kamau, representing the presidency of Kenya at the high-level Committee on South-South Cooperation, and FAO's Deputy Director General for Operations, Manoj Juneja.
But I can assure you it's in my main focus as the President of the General Assembly, and the awareness is there by all member states, the United Nations, and as you see now, we are heading also to Rio +20 in June, climate change in South Africa in a few days. I can assure you it's very complicated, but we are moving towards the solution.
We have seen a clear shift away from a top-down, prescriptive type of development model to a more cooperative, integrative sort of way of doing business that recognizes that ideas can come from everywhere, that resources can come from everywhere, and that knowledge, for it to have real impact, has to be owned by those people who want to transform their own reality.
We have to look at cutting food costs in terms of ensuring the most judicious use of agricultural inputs to make sure that we have the right technologies in place to minimize the cost of production. But then beyond that, we also have to ensure that natural resources are sustainably used in agriculture, fisheries, and forestry. After food is actually produced, we need to make sure that we minimize post-harvest losses, which is where the 1/3 figure of food losses you heard earlier today begins. We have to have good storage capacities, we have to have good transportation systems to take food to the market, and in particular for the developed countries, we need to find ways and means to reduce waste on the plate.
The FAO warns that key issues surrounding food insecurity are water scarcity, groundwater pollution, and the dependence on fossil fuels to feed a growing population that is expected to grow by 2 billion in just 40 years' time. The inauguration of the exhibition floor took place immediately after. It's the first ever exhibition solely designed from the South and for the South, providing Southern-grown development solutions from over 30 programs. These exhibitions display Southern priority and demand-driven initiatives, Southern ownership, innovation, efficiency, sustainability, and scalability, illustrating how solutions can benefit more people and with greater impact.
So rather than FAO providing its own technical assistance, we are actually promoting exchanges between countries of the South. So where you have countries that have particular experience in a certain area, agricultural development, but also social development in other areas, which is then transferred to other developing countries that are in need of this type of expertise. So both sharing experiences, but also technologies, know-how, this kind of thing. Yeah.
This expo will eventually produce on-site, at least 50 successful solutions in dealing with food security or food insecurity from the angle of taking care of the environment so that crops can grow better. Some countries have taken care of the social protection floor issue where food are distributed more equally.
A press conference was held after the exhibition walkthrough, followed by a leadership roundtable on food security, where experts and dignitaries from such countries as China, Brazil, and Nigeria shared challenges and success stories on how closer collaboration via South-South cooperation is helping turn food insecurity and agricultural obstacles into vibrant new businesses, changing the lives of the people of the South, such as women smallholder farmers whose livelihood depends on the land.
Well, we've done empirical studies showing that if countries don't own their own programs and use their own capacities to run the programs, then you really don't achieve results. This should be important to taxpayers in the United States and Germany and the United Kingdom as well. And we need, obviously, to do everything we can to help these countries develop the capacity to do that. Because if they buy in, if they see in the interest of their country to achieve development results, it makes everyone more successful.
Day one concluded with the launching of major initiatives from middle-income countries such as China, Costa Rica, and Mexico to low-income countries such as Mongolia and Nepal, who have been scaling up local development innovations and are now achieving sustainable and equitable development by relying on their own resources and human capacities and driving the utility of such resources home through the South-South Cooperation Platform. UNDP says that the challenge now is to convert such pilot projects into systematic, larger-scale programs through integration strategies so that they reach broader regions and therefore change more lives.
There is a lacking of systematic attempt to convert pilot initiative into some large-scale programs that can benefit more people and that can have lasting transformational development impact. So what is needed today is really to understand how to make development approaches really in an integrated manner to make innovation successful, but also how to scale up those innovations.
The Global South-South Development Expo included participants from donor agencies, civil society organizations, the private sector, and academia, and will run through December 9th, with a closing ceremony along with its annual South-South Cooperation Awards, recognizing the best initiatives that promote and foster food security. The FAO and partners are working toward creating sustainable initiatives that will grow into what's called a development architecture that cuts across the United Nations development agenda and all geographic lines, north and south. Afaf Kanja, South-South News, FAO, Rome.